It's a beautiful September night, and titans of industry are gathered to celebrate a remarkable milestone, the 35th anniversary of the Makati Business Club. On a night like this, movers and shakers who lead some of the largest and most dynamic corporations in the country have not forgotten those who, nearly 1,000 kilometers away, were caught in a battle that was leveling parts of their city. It would be 42 more days before the clashes end, and Marawi City is declared liberated. Then, the daunting task to rebuild, better and stronger, begins. Makati Business Club is donating 1 million pesos in cash and 500,000 pesos for generator sets to rebuild Marawi. The amount later topped up by a surprise pledge from Washington CSIP, who was among the three who received a token of appreciation that night for his wise stewardship of MBC. CSIP passed away a month later.
Pledge 100,000 to your funds. Thank you.
Perhaps this is how the story of the Makati Business Club can best be told, through a lens where business and nation building come together.
I don't think we understand the gravity of the needs of rebuilding the city of Marawi. Those are the types of business support that maybe Makati Business Club and the other business chambers in the Philippines can kind of give to the Bangsamoro Business Council, the Marawi Business Council, so that they may not really need dole-outs.
When disaster strikes like Yolanda and all of these other disasters, or what's going on in Marawi now, business responds very quickly.
I think being the representative of big business, with our members coming mostly from the larger corporations, from multinationals, I think our big challenge should rightly be this whole discussion about inclusive growth and inclusive business.
MBC was born in the turbulent 1980s.
That was 1981, and definitely in the Philippines there was greater unrest about martial law. I think people were already tired of martial law and they were already clamoring for the lifting of martial law. And the Philippines was already being left behind by especially the so-called tiger economies.
Capital flight took place. Then there came the revelation that the central bank had overstated their bank reserves by $600 million. And therefore, essentially, the government was broke. And it highlighted the excesses of the Marcos administration.
Set against a backdrop of political turmoil and a failing economy, Don Enrique Zobel, known simply as EZ, gathered fellow business leaders to form the Makati Business Club.
At that time, he felt that the business community were very, shall we say, timid. And so he approached me to begin with, and he said, why don't we put up the Makati Business Club?
The outspoken, often nonconformist EZ is famous for a speech where he categorized the wealthy into three groups: the idle, the profligate, and the working rich, unapologetically counting himself among the latter. He's often quoted as saying, "The successful businessman owes no one an apology for turning out a profit, for the businessman's socio-economic service lies in the process of making a profit. Production is improved, employment corrected, and income increased."
Don Enrique Zobel, who was chairman at that time, was friendly with President Marcos, and at one point there were rumors he might be appointed as Agriculture Secretary But they had a good relationship, but yet Don Enrique would speak out on behalf of the business sector.
The late Jaime Ongpin is also one of the early pillars of MBC, having been the face of the business community's increasingly public opposition to the Marcos regime.
Well, Mr. Jimmy Ongpin was a patriot. I mean, he was a top businessman, but he was willing to risk, his being in business by defying President Marcos. And as you probably know, he was the one who coined the phrase crony capitalism. President Marcos was anointing people to take over the coconut industry, to take over the sugar industry, and so on and so forth.
Easy also managed to recruit other industry leaders like Antonio Ozaita, James Collins, Jose Romero Jr., and Rogelio Pantaleon, to name a few. It wasn't long before more like-minded individuals signed up. They didn't always have to agree on everything, but they agreed on this, that nation building is everyone's business. In less turbulent times, that included policy advocacy, investment promotion, and business and economic research.
I heard about them even while I was still in Singapore. No, I was in Singapore for 8 years, and I'd already heard about them and about their reputation. MBC was a good voice for the business community.
I had just come back from college at that time. I'd been out of the Philippines for many years, so I personally needed a place where I could sit in, get to meet members of the business community, and understand some of the issues that were being discussed in the Philippines at that time. So it was a perfect venue for me. My uncle Enrique was one of the founding members.
The club felt it had a greater responsibility to society than just business and the economy. The fact that it had a diverse membership meant the group had the advantage of getting the best of both worlds, private enterprise and public service.
Politics and business in the Philippines are together. Whether they support you or they criticize you, that is part of the game.
Individually, you don't amount to much, but collectively, people have to recognize your influence in the community.
Coming up, a closer look at the work of the Makati Business Club and the group's relationship with the changing residents of Malacanang Palace.